Alright. Let's do this.
You are literally the worst person on the planet. And I will have my vengeance on you. And you won't know when, but I'm going to have it. And there's nothing you can do to stop me because you have tiny little bird bones. And right now I could pin you down and right on your face and you couldn't do anything to stop me.
Connor, you're going to wake up in the middle of a cornfield strapped to a bike surrounded in flames and not know what the f*** happened.
Son of a... Hello everybody and welcome to Tism Talk. We are finally resuming our review of My Hero Academia. And we have a new host on the show, our brother Aidan, who recently got into it, probably because he got sick and tired of not understanding anything Connor and I were talking about anytime we talk about stuff.
Correct.
But he enjoyed it, and so I said, hey, you should review it with us. Stop fucking watching any more episodes.
I stopped watching fucking episodes.
Yep, so.
Only the celibate episodes for me.
Anyway, we are... Shut up. You annoyed me so much, and they'll only know at the end. So, today we are reviewing episode 4 of the series, and that is when Deku finally gets to show off his quirk for the first time.
For real.
Yep. But this is also where, at the beginning, I noticed for the first time that one of our contenders looked like a 20-year-old man.
Oh, I thought he looked like 30-something.
Yeah,
the bald guy with
there's
like
this bald guy covered in scars, and he looks so out of place. It's like, are you like a high school dropout?
Nah.
Is this like your 5th time trying to get in?
It's Caillou. It's the leukemia survivor.
Caillou after
he shoots fucking, what is it?
Caillou after he came back.
We have no idea what that guy does because we never see him again.
He shoots chemo out of his fucking wrist.
Jesus.
He's the best hero. He cures cancer.
I mean, they're probably
the best hero
people...
is Fingers for All.
Yes, who does actually make an appearance later, but Connor needed to take better notes.
Shut the fuck up.
Because, you see, in this episode, I am going to, from now on, I'm going to try and make sure that things are a little bit more organized, which is why we have notepads.
These two have notepads. I have a phone because I'm not a boomer.
Shut up, Zoomer.
It's just because he can't take his eyes off it. Anyway, so I have insisted on things being written down so that we can make sure each of these episodes is discussing an episode, rather than the first one that discussed 3, and then I had to have a fist fight with YouTube's copyright system to even get it up in the horrible state it is. This one hopefully will go better. I think I have a way of getting around their nonsense.
Anyway, so another thing I noticed about a guy in the crowd, he looks like a Nomu that we'll see later on.
And I didn't notice this character, so I think Connor might just be on crack.
Look for the guy with red hair and like a fun.
Yeah, I'll put him up
with
right?
like circles. He looks
but
like.
What Nomu could you possibly be talking about?
One of the high ends. He was wearing like a weird helmet.
Then there's no way that this dude was that guy. Also, wait, you said the Nomu's wearing a helmet, so you're just like, oh, this one guy had a spike on his head, and a Nomu was wearing a spiked helmet. Same person? Thinks. You're like one of those people who insist that Deku had a quirk that was taken from him, even though we know that he had the double joint in his toe, which means that he couldn't have had a quirk ever. And also, it's been confirmed unironically later that the only people who can safely inherit One for All are people who have never had a quirk. But that's getting way ahead.
Alright.
Anyway.
Alright, so let's start with our notes.
Well, the notes are to help us talk about it, and only talk about that. So
I noticed everyone was, like, a lot of people there were really fucking rude to Midoriya at the beginning.
Well, yeah, because
there were a bunch of people who were looking at him like, look at this fucking bled. He thinks he can run with us.
Maybe you would have had more to say on that if you had been paying attention and not talking about Baki at the time.
You're welcome.
No, we're not. But Specifically, the reason all of them were making fun of him is because they all were people who saw him almost fall on his face at the beginning.
Yeah.
So they think he's just some uncoordinated dweeb. And
Yeah, they're still
also,
being
he's wearing a
rude.
tracksuit, so they can't see that he's yoked. So they're like, who is this kid?
Who's this plain
Who is
looking
this
guy?
lost child?
Who's this plain looking guy?
So sad.
I'll get you more water after this.
No, you
So-
won't.
Anyway, so I think the big thing is that big notes are that Deku has literally zero control over the power at this
Yes.
point because he hasn't been shown how to use it. They managed to get him to the point where his body could inherit the quirk without exploding right at the test.
Ooh.
Anyway, another thing that I really enjoyed is that we can see early on a few people's weaknesses within the kind of starting. We already see Uraraka as she's starting to like knock down a lot of the villain bots by floating them and such. That she seems like she's getting a little nauseous, but they don't draw a ton of attention to it. We just see her kind of
Until
being
she-
like,
Until
that's at
she
the end.
explicitly
Yeah.
I'm
bitch
talking
slaps
before
Midoriya.
then. Once she has dropped a few more, she kind of goes like for a second, but then keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed that. Also, later after the big robot, we see that Iida isn't like zooming away from it. He's just kind of jogging away. He's not even faster than anyone else. And I think that's
I think
because
we saw
his big
when
thing.
he was looking at Midoriya, I think we saw another person running faster than him.
Well, we could say that was him slowing down because he sees Midoriya.
Yeah.
But I think that it is a part of the fact that since his ability is speed, his endurance plays a big part in it. He can do his reciprocal burst thing, which we haven't gotten named yet, but we do know about. And that gives him super speed early on, like just a big quick burst. And then after that, he can't really run for shit anymore.
Yeah.
But it does seem that stamina is his big limiter in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just eventually he runs out of steam. He can't just keep going forever.
Yeah.
One of my big things I noticed is like Uraraka didn't fucking like lift the concrete off herself because all she had to do was give it a tippy tap and it would have
Well,
like
she was
flown up
panicking.
and she could have got out.
Yeah, I think
But like
some of
when,
that
even
is
when
also-
Midoriya was panicking though, he just ran at a giant robot and punched in the
Yeah,
fucking
that's because
head.
Midoriya is naturally heroic.
Well,
Ochako
I'm not
was
going to say that
panicking
she's
and-
not naturally.
Yeah, I know. I'm not
She-
saying that, but what I'm saying is like just because Midoriya was able to run at it versus Ochako being panicking because this big robot is coming in her direction and she's
Midoriya was
trapped.
panicking more. All it would take for her to get free would just be like, that's it.
Yes, but Cameron also called out that
Not even that.
Is it-
Her arms are
well-
here, the concrete's here, all she had to do was...
Well, no,
Flick of
the
the wrist.
concrete's on her back, on the back of her legs, so she'd have to reach back to get at it.
Well, still, even.
The big thing though is that I think a lot of animes will run into this issue where things are supposed to be happening
all simultaneously.
really quick, and so we can't but it's hard to show that everything's happening
Yeah.
at the same
Another
time.
thing that I wonder about is when, like, Uraraka, towards the end of the episode, after the robot gets off her and she saves Midoriya, it, like, pans to, like, the back of her, and we see her throwing up, and it's just, like, rainbow glitter, and I
Well,
don't know if that was just, like...
so
that's
what
just
that
her, or
is-
would you
like-
rather see like weird rainbow stuff and sparkles, or would you actually want to see them actually like throw up?
That's
chunks of
that's a
food and
common
such?
thing in a lot of anime. Is that rather than show graphic vomit, it's just kind of like rainbowy.
And like how
So it's not like a power of hers. It's just their way of
And-
saying she's vomiting without showing it.
and like how
Yeah.
when people get punched so hard the wind is knocked out of them or something like that, it doesn't just show them. It shows like an outline of like a bubble of air coming
No,
out.
you're just being crazy. What you're thinking about is later episode again, and we don't always see that. That's when they've been punched so hard the spit is shot out their
Oh,
mouth.
I always thought that was them trying to like show better that the wind was knocked out.
No. When the wind's knocked out of them, they look like the wind's knocked out of them.
Yeah.
You're just being autistic. Anyway, so this is
That's
something that won't come up until much later, but we're getting a little early seed of the fact that the quirk One for All responds to the user's emotion. Because when Deku is able to summon it and use it for the first time is when he feels a great need to save this girl who had saved him before.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't think he would have been able to activate it properly, because he doesn't know how. He just has essentially a small pep talk from All Might, which is that when you feel it working, clench your butt cheeks and just scream smash from the bottom of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
But what activates it for him is his feelings of wanting to protect others. And that lets him use it initially.
Yeah, I have.
And then we get to see just how
about stuff
well
like
then
that
say
later
it.
on.
The notes are not meant to be bullet points you follow. It's meant to remind you what happened in what episode. So you, don't talk about things out of order.
You're out of order. All right, let's continue. I
have a theory based on of episode 4.
Oh no.
Okay, well,
kind of fucked up. I think that like the people who pass down All for One, right?
Yeah, it's passed down from person to person.
Yeah, I feel like that one, they're just like a bunch of fucking child groomers, and like no.
Oh my god,
because every person who gets it passed down to is this poor child who doesn't have anything going on.
Second and third users were the people who saved the first one.
Okay, stop. This is the exact thing I was talking about.
I'm trying to correct Aidan, and my correction.
No, I'm allowed to make a theory. You make theories on everything you watch.
Yes, mine are. This isn't a theory.
Okay,
this is a detail.
I'm gonna stop you both right now because you are way too ahead, and there are people who might watch this with us.
Yeah, that's why it's just a theory. That's why I'm not trying to get.
So
into
I will
specifics.
say, you're not off, but just keep watching. We'll get more about the previous users.
Oh yeah,
later.
I know. I'm just saying, from what I've seen, it kind of seems like, All Might like passes down this power. Now all of a sudden he's at the school. He's teaching Midoriya. He comes to his house. He spends all this time alone with them. It's like,
well, I will say,
makes him eat his DNA.
Shut up.
That's just how it has to be passed down.
I know.
But I will tell you that later on we'll learn that the way that All Might is behaving towards Midoriya is due to things that he lacked when he inherited it.
Yeah.
But I won't say any more, so no
For
spoilers.
the viewers.
Anyway, in case it wasn't obvious based on the title of this, only watch these as you have watched the episodes yourself. Connor, you had some things?
Yes, it is
Spoiler
shown
free.
throughout the episode that Iida is really trying to think about what was happening. Like when Midoriya was sitting there broken, Iida's trying to think of why he did what he did for sure, and is slowly starting. And in his mind, he doesn't see it as, since Iida is this like guy who really likes school somehow. He doesn't see this as Midoriya just being a true hero at heart. He sees this as Midoriya figured something out. What was it?
Well, I'd say it's not so much I'd say he's really overthinking it. Iida seems to have an issue of overanalyzing literally everything.
Especially Midoriya.
Well, yes, because in this instance he comes to the conclusion that Midoriya must have somehow figured something out that he couldn't see. When it's just that Midoriya was just doing what he thought was right. And then he gets his bias confirmed when Midoriya does in fact pass with rescue points. And he's like, you must have figured out that there were rescue points from the beginning, even though they didn't tell us about those. You're a super genius. When Midoriya is just a guy. He expected to fail. But
He was just like, I see pretty girl, I save.
I mean, it
Iida
might
is
just be
just a
another
little bit too...
confusion with like Goku's intelligence. Like Midoriya is.
Oh God, not
Okay,
Goku.
I'm using him as an example. Midoriya is smart in ways that aren't normal. He is smart in the sense of he knows a lot about heroes. He knows basically everything he could. Mm-hmm. While Iida is looking at this as he is so incredibly smart about just research and tests and such.
Well, that's exactly the same thing, though. He's researched heroes, and that's it. What it is that Midoriya is a really smart guy, but what he really has is quick thinking on his side. He can overthink things and get a little too on his head, but when the cards are on the table, Midoriya can just instantly come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Because he thinks of things in plans and just strategies for things, because he's analyzed heroes for so long, that he's been able to figure out their strategies and what they come to.
And what the best strategy
Whereas
would be for a
Iida
certain scenario.
is rules-based thinking. He thinks that Midoriya figured out the rules when Midoriya just did what he thought was best given the scenario.
Yeah.
Iida thinks it was a super calculated move, which is where Iida shines, is in very calculated things. Whereas Midoriya was doing more on-the-foot thinking, which Midoriya, again, can get kind of in his head about. But ultimately,
when push comes to shove,
he will instantly be able to think something up. Anyway, so finishing up, Deku breaks his shit. He has zero control. He falls headfirst into the ground, but his quick thinking comes in, and he does have a plan to maybe not die, but his plan essentially comes to the point of, I'm a punch the ground.
I'm a punch through the earth.
I can't smash my head on the floor if the floor doesn't exist anymore.
I'm gonna move the floor out of my way.
Yeah. But luckily, Uraraka keeps him from breaking another limb by smacking him in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
To be fair, she was trying to be quick, like, I gotta make sure he doesn't eat shit and die.
Yeah, no, the best part is it's
But it
Midoriya
does
going
really-
down and he's closing his eyes as he's getting ready to punch.
And then
it's just the sound of...
And then he's, ooh, and then gently falls on his head.
I love the face he made during that, because it looks like...
Well, yeah, because he's immediately like, oh, I'm not dead.
I was just slapped.
But yeah, so to summarize for people who might want to just skip through the end and see it.
You suck, by
Yeah.
the way. Watch the whole thing.
So, to summarize, in this episode, Midoriya gets his first taste of, oh shit, I'm
connection.
female connection.
Quite literally.
Yes, quite literally.
I meant to
But
say
also-
female contact.
It worked.
But also, he figures out that he has little to no control over his powers and is much more likely to break his shit than actually save anyone.
How come he keeps saying break his shit instead of just saying he breaks bones?
Well, yeah, but it's more than that.
Instead of his bones breaking.
He's lacerating his arteries. He's bruising his skin. Everything's done.
Instead of his bones breaking, his shit's just exploding in him.
Imploding, actually.
Shut up. Whatever. Same diff.
Anyway, and everyone's very confused. Like, wait a second, he's really strong, but he looks like he's broken.
Man, that's
now.
real. He's real powerful, but it doesn't seem like it's worth it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, look at that. That looks fucking painful.
But yes. And then that'll be all for
Yeah.
episode 4.